What's up guys, Skippy Africanus here, and in today's video we're going to be going over the Signal 50 from Modern Warfare 2, or as it's known in real life, the Gepard GM6 Lynx. Now this sniper rifle, or rather anti-material rifle, has got to be one of the weirdest rifles currently in use today. Like honestly, I'd say weirdest gun in general, but the handgun market does have quite a few oddballs, so it would kind of tie in with some other stuff. We brought up handguns, but I mean, again, when it comes to rifles, there frankly is nothing like the GM6 Lynx. I mean, just looking at this thing, and you can tell, it's definitely got some weird stuff going on with it, but honestly, this is one of those guns where there is definitely more than meets the eye. So what exactly is the GM6 Lynx? Why does it exist? Who uses it? And most importantly, because it's definitely one of the coolest features of the Lynx, how does it actually work? Let's get into it. Now, despite the classification of the gun in-game as a sniper rifle, the Lynx was actually intended for the role of an anti-material rifle. And while you could most certainly do some damage to a soldier with either of the 50 caliber chamberings, its main intentions was for things like, taking out lightly armored vehicles, attacking machine gun nests, taking out helicopters, or really just going up against vehicles and stagnant defenses alike. Now, I did mention two chamberings for this rifle. Of course, you have the 50 BMG, as mentioned in-game, or as it's also known, the 12.7 by 99mm, but there is also a second 50 caliber chambering in the form of 12.7 by 108mm, or basically the Russian 50 cal. They're a little bit longer than the 12.7 by 99, but overall kind of perform around the same. And aside from Russia, a lot of the other former COM-block countries actually use this round. Hence why this gun, given its Hungarian origin, can also be found chambered in this round. Now, in regards to me mentioning how similar these rounds are to one another, it should be noted that the M6 is capable of being rechambered to either caliber, with only a few parts really needing to be swapped out, like, say, the barrel. A lot of the other parts, including the magazine, are perfectly capable of running both calibers. Going a little more into this gun, and of course the most notable feature is, of course, that this gun is a bullpup. Now, while bullpups are fairly common with smaller caliber rifles, for things like anti-material rifles, it is definitely a rarity. However, if there was one platform that makes sense to bullpup, aside from rifles, it is most certainly the anti-material rifle. I mean, these two rifles have pretty much the same barrel length, and there is a definite noticeable difference in size. And I mean, sure, despite being a major bullpup fan, I wouldn't want to bullpup any sort of precision rifle where, that good trigger actually does kind of matter. But I mean, something like a diet anti-tank rifle, honestly, this really is the way to go. I mean, sure, these guns aren't going to be super lightweight. You're not going to be going hardcore, room-to-room clearing or anything. It's still a big 25-pound hunk of steel, but I mean, just look at this thing, that has got to be way easier to transport and, just in general walk around with. Bullpup Master Race. Now, cool enough, if this gun still isn't compact enough for you, it also does feature this neat little trick where you can just push the barrel all the way back and lock it in via a tab right here. Now, why does that barrel move all the way back, you may ask? We'll get into that feature, the coolest feature, in a minute. Before we go into how this gun actually works, let's talk about why this thing actually exists in the first place. The GM6 Lynx is the 6th iteration of the Gepard family of anti-material rifles. Now, do note that a lot of these guns feature practically no resemblance to one another, or to the GM6 Lynx in particular. Essentially, this was just Hungary's 6th iteration of an anti-material rifle in general. However, that being said, they learned a lot from the previous 5 guns on what they did and didn't want in an anti-material rifle. For instance, they learned fairly quickly that they wanted something more than just a single-shot gun with a complicated reload mechanism like what their first iteration pretty much was. They also found out that, yes, while 14.5 by 114mm is probably the coolest heavy round ever devised, that's something a little lighter shooting, like say 12.7 by 108 or 12.7 by 99, is a little easier to use. In general, a whole bunch of major and minor lessons learned that, when added up all together, gives us the M6, and not just the M6, but perhaps the greatest anti-material rifle currently available. Now, that being said, however, the Lynx currently is only in use by 3 countries, the first and foremost, of course, being Hungary, which isn't really surprised, they made the gun. Other than them, however, only India and the UK really uses them, with the UK in quite small numbers for their SAS and SBS teams. Which, I will add, is certainly quite a shame, because on top of being quite a good anti-material rifle, the gun also probably uses one of my favorite mechanism types, and one that is pretty rare on a lot of guns, and really is only ever seen on old designs like, say, the Remington Model 8s, Browning Auto 5s, or even that, Frommer Stopp, aka the long recoil mechanism. So remember how I mentioned earlier that barrel locked back? Well, it doesn't just do that for compactness. In fact, that little tab being added to do that in the first place is more of an afterthought. Anyways, as the gun is fired, the barrel recoils rearward, pushing the bolt assembly as it's doing so. While the bolt assembly is traveling rearward, this bearing piece rides up on that angled piece, rotating the bolt as it's doing so, which, at full travel rearward, the bolt is caught by a latch and the barrel itself begins to return forward due to spring tension. The casing is ejected as it's doing so, and once the barrel travels forward enough, it trips a latch, causing the bolt assembly to begin to move forward. At a certain point, a latch is also tripped inside the bolt assembly, causing the bolt head to rotate and lock the gun, making it ready for the next shot. All in all, a complicated yet at the same time rather simple process. And given this operating system, this is why you will notice in game when you rack the bolt, you give it a little twist upwards as opposed to just pulling the whole thing straight back. And this is also why you hear the two loud clicks after you fire the gun in game, which is exactly what happens in real life. Honestly, as mentioned, the long recoil system is probably one of the coolest systems out there for semi-automatic guns. I know for certain I got my Remington Model 8 because of that system. And according to a lot of people that have shot these guns, given that recoil or the barrel moving back and all that, it actually tends to make the gun feel a little bit softer shooting. Like, yes, obviously you are firing a 50 caliber rifle and it's still going to have a heavy kick, but as opposed to a lot of other 50 cals where it gives a sharp kick, it gives more of like a kind of like a really strong pushback. And while I personally have not fired the Lynx, I fired my Model 8, of course, and then I fired one of those Browning Auto 5s, and you do notice that with long recoil guns in general is it does feel more like a push as opposed to just a sharp kick rearward. That movement of the barrel mass really does wonders in just helping with the recoil. And actually, funny enough, I do want to add that the way the Lynx itself specifically runs has got to be the coolest variant of a long recoil rifle. I mean, you look at like the slow-mo footage and it almost like reminds me of something like a Howl rifle, or i.e. like a semi-automatic bolt action. Now, of course, the Lynx still features some other oddball stuff aside from just this mechanism. Like, for instance, the hammer actually sits in a kind of canted position, which you can see strike the primer in the slow-mo videos. Add to that, the gun features a muzzle brake. Now, of course, having a brake on a gun, especially one of this size itself, isn't weird. In fact, it's certainly more weird to not have a brake on something like an anti-material rifle. However, the brake on this rifle in particular serves more of a purpose than just reducing recoil. This brake is also used for adjusting the gun to firing weaker to stronger loaded ammo, ensuring that no matter what type of 50 cal you decide to load into this thing, it's always going to cycle. But anyways, I think that is going to do it for this short little video on the Signal 50 from Modern Warfare 2, or as it's known in real life, the Gepard GM6 Lynx. I hope you all enjoyed the video as much as I personally enjoyed making it, especially for this real cool gun, and I will see you all in the next Guns of Modern Warfare 2 in real life video.